in the last video where Joe and I went into the depths of the canyon that I refer to as Dead Canyon, we came across that skeleton of a bull elk.
Hold that up, Joey, hold that up. Look what Joey, hold it up, hold it up. Oh, look what he just found.
And there was a lot of things going on with that elk's remains that piqued the interest of Joe and I. For example, something had separated all of the leg bones from the rib cage and the skull, and something had broke a rib bone from the rib cage and placed it on a rock in a way that made me kind of scratch my head and say, well, for something to have done that, it would have required fingers, would have required coordination and planning. I've never heard of a bear or a cougar or a coyote separating big bones into a pile for later. That's just not behavior of a predator, of an animal, of a scavenger. And so I knew that I had a game camera right nearby. In the game camera, I mean, it is just almost within 10 feet, maybe less, of capturing everything that went on with that carcass of that elk. And so I thought, I had such high hopes that this camera was going to answer all these questions and was going to have something pretty amazing on it. But somehow, every single thing that went on with that elk was able to happen without the camera catching anything. I mean, just a few paces over, and that elk would have been right in the middle of this view of this camera. And because there was a leaf blowing in the wind, this camera took almost 5,000 images over the 10 months that I had it down there. And in that time period, I don't see wildlife like you should. There's a couple of deer that cross this river, and there's some birds that come and go, but this isn't normal for a river crossing in a healthy, vibrant canyon like this. I have other game cameras that I would put in exact same situations like this on the same river, just in a different area, in a different canyon system. And within weeks, there would be elk, deer, bear, bobcat, cougars. I mean, you name it. Every animal would walk through. And so I'm seeing what appears to be a canyon that would have human beings living in it. Because when a human moves into an area, the animals move out. And so as I watch this almost full year of footage in this canyon, it shows me that for some reason, animals are not going in there. I mean, there's not even a raccoon that passes by this trail cam. I mean, it's unreal. And there is a few deer that wander through, but I am willing to bet that those deer are passing through because they're not from that area. And they don't know what the local wildlife know. They don't know that that area is claimed by a big, powerful predator. I mean, that elk's body, the elk had to have gotten there somehow. And if that elk had washed downstream, it would have went right past the game camera. Because Joe and I had debated that the elk could have been killed and its body could have washed downstream. But that would have triggered the camera. There would have been a scene of its body floating by. It never did. So something large brought that elk in there, and something large separated its bones and piled all of its leg bones up above. And whatever did that managed to do all that without getting caught by my trail cam just a few paces away. So it's crazy. I mean, it really is showing me that there's something in that canyon that is careful and smart enough to not get pictured by my trail cam, but smart enough and strong enough to do whatever it did with that elk carcass. I mean, possibly kill that elk and butcher it right there on the shoreline. And by the time I came down, all that remained was the bones. You know, I can't prove that, but it was there. I can prove that. And it wasn't there when I first put the trail cam up. So this is a different canyon, but it's the same exact river. And when I put this camera in place, I was only gone for maybe 3 weeks before I came back to check on it. And in 3 weeks' time, this thing captured coyote, cougar. Actually, I think it's a bobcat, not a cougar. It could be a lynx. It had deer. It had a bear. I mean, it had everything. And like I said, this was in 3 weeks. If I were to compare, you know, this river to the scene at Dead Canyon, I mean, it's two completely different worlds. This river is exploding with wildlife. Every different kind. So why is that other canyon just completely void of animals? It just doesn't make sense. Especially in this area, you know, this is a wilderness area, and wildlife is just everywhere up there. So something is definitely scaring animals from entering the canyon. And I've named that canyon Dead Canyon because there was the dead elk carcass. And then after watching almost a year of footage from that canyon, there's no life there. And so it's just the name I've given it is Dead Canyon. But if you would look at this video, this is what your typical river in one of these canyon systems should offer. Constant game. Animals coming in to drink water. They use the river as a path, especially in the canyon systems, because the canyons are so steep. They're so hard to navigate. The only way you can walk through these canyons is to use the river. And even still, where that elk carcass was at, nothing is using the canyon. So they're going around that area. Why is that? I mean, what is going on to spook the animals? And I know the answer to that question. Because when I first started investigating that canyon, the very first time I ever entered that canyon, it was about a year ago, when I was climbing out of that canyon, something vocalized, something screamed at Bailey and I. And it was a very gut-wrenching sound. It really was. It made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. It made Bailey cower. And that was the first vocalization experience I ever had. And it was right there in that canyon. And so here it is, a year later, game camera in place that whole time. And now I know there is some kind of big predator in there because the animals aren't going in there.